Hello. So today I want to talk about Miss Pamela Anderson. She released her slim memoir, Love Pamela. And, I had to give it a read. So, I didn't even notice the message on the back. Okay. It says, to live and dream is a wicked dance. My dreams often can't come true. A curse and a blessing. So this memoir is both Pamela telling her story, but also there are some prose, some poems, and it's a mix of talking about her life, and then she inserts her personal poetry as well. But again, it is a very slim memoir, and for someone of her age who has lived her life, I would have expected more than this, but this is what she released. And I'm not sure why, but yeah, this is what we have, okay? This is what we have. And I'm going to talk about it. Hello, my name is Tamika, and whether you stumbled upon Junkie for a Story or are here by intention, thank you for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you do, please give it a like and subscribe by the end of the video, and hit the bell for notifications so you won't miss new videos when they are released. And now, on to the video. So, like I said, I did give this a read, Love Pamela. And we do learn some things about Pamela Anderson. So it's not a complete waste. It's very thin on depth, I would say. She takes a shallow dip into her life and reflects on what we know as the scandals and mishaps that she experienced. So first, she talks about growing up in Canada with her parents. She is one of two children. She had a younger brother, and they lived a very unstable and tumultuous life. Her father was abusive, but Pam does gloss over that and not really talks about the effects of that abuse in depth, which is a theme throughout the book. She doesn't really reflect too heavily on the tragic events she experienced, but her father was violent towards her brother, her mother. I mean, her father was violent from what she said in this book. However, her parents are still alive, so that might be why she doesn't want to, go into the details of that. Maybe she has gone to therapy. I'm not sure, but it just, the way she talks about it, she just really glosses over it and then moves on. So, I mean, she talks about being terrified. She talks about, grabbing her younger brother and getting them out of the house so that the parents could hash it out. And, then when they feel safe, Pam and her brother, they return to the home, and it's just their normal life. That's their normal life. This is the image Pamela grew up with as far as a father figure, a husband figure. It does explain a lot about her own selections for spouses. But yeah, it sounds like it was pretty heavy and traumatic for her. And then she escaped. She first lived with her aunt, who sounds like a very interesting character. And then she moved in with some friends. And then at some point she managed to get to America. She was, actually, Playboy had called, and they saw her through a commercial or something, and then they brought her out to America, and she auditioned for Playboy, made the cover, yada, 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 right? And so let me grab my notes, because there's some things I want to talk about and some things I just, because it's so slim, I don't want to say too much, you know? So I will say throughout the book, she uses this opportunity to get people to see her as an intelligent woman. Now, I guess through her experiences as a playmate or whatever they call them, but that and being like the quintessential ditzy blonde of the 90s, maybe it is assumed that she's stupid. And then she talks about how her press tours, whenever she's promoting anything, you know, it's very different from how it would go for maybe a Julia Roberts or Glenn Close or, you know, other actresses. They would be asked questions that were related to what she was promoting, but also it seemed like the journalist or whoever was asking, just whoever in the media, whoever was asking the questions, they would ask Pamela Anderson questions that were just ridiculous, you know, that had nothing to do with what she was promoting. And they were very condescending, very rude to her. And I guess that has given her sort of a complex about her intelligence. She does seem to try very hard to correct that assumption by talking about what she was interested in school. I forgot what she was interested in, but something within the science field, some anthropology or something she was interested in. And she always was talking about the literature she was reading, but it just came across like she was doing that to counterbalance the image that the media has given her. And maybe people sort of took that image as that's who she is. So, I mean, it seemed like she was trying really hard, but that is the image she has and she is up against. So there's that. And then she meets Tommy Lee, the rocker Tommy Lee. And again, this is where the glossing over details that she probably should have delved into, this is where that takes place again. So she talks about meeting Tommy Lee, and he, from her own description, sounds like a stalker, but she finds that attractive. And again, that might go back to how her father behaved towards her mother. So he was stalking her, Tommy Lee. But it was welcomed stalking. And she says he came out to Mexico or somewhere where she was, you know, doing some type of work thing. And he found her, called her at a hotel, you know, wouldn't give up until she agreed to go out with him. And then that night, I don't know if it was the same night, but I mean, it happened in a short period of time, like in 3 days or something. They just decided to get married. However, certain details she put in here, which I was not aware of, so I'm not sure if this is common knowledge or not. I'm not like, I don't read up on Pamela like that. So I didn't know about the story. So I don't know. I don't know. But she talks about meeting him, and it's in the, what is marked as the 7th chapter. Yes, she says she met him at the Sanctuary, which is a bar that she co-owned with a friend of hers. But anyway, so in the 7th chapter on page 110, she says, Tommy and I were officially married by the time we left Cancun. The club we ended up in that first night together was called La Boom. And she talks about how he slipped something in her drink and then they got married. I was listening on audio, but I was also reading along here and there. You know, I was going in and out of the book and audio book and the physical book and audio book. And she just glossed over the fact that she thinks Tommy Lee date raped her. That's what my ears heard, and she just kind of glossed over it. But I'm going to read the part because I had to go back through this because it sounded like that's what she was saying, but then she just moved on like it was nothing. So she says, Tommy must have slipped something special in my champagne. The room got warm and fuzzy, and my skin felt like butter, even softer than usual. He said, let's get married, and I dreamily said, okay. He took the skull ring off his friend Bobby's hand and put it on my ring finger. He said Tommy called everywhere to find an available minister. I mean, I don't know. That's a serious allegation, and she just handled it irresponsibly, I would say. Because, you know, she said the room got warm and fuzzy. So, I mean, to bring it up, but then act like it's not a big deal is just not a good look. Not something you should do. Okay. And when you read her story, throughout her story, she doesn't take a lot of time to reflect on her relationships. And it sounds like, I mean, she's writing this is past tense. So she had time. Her marriage to Tommy Lee happened in the 90s, and this is 2023. So she had ample time to reflect on that marriage and the marriage with, you know what, I don't even remember if she said anything about Kid Rock, but I forgot they were even married. But yeah, I mean, she was married to Kid Rock. There was some other guy. There was a athlete. I can't think of what he did, soccer player or something. But she has been married 4 or so times. And it just seems like she keeps picking the same spouses. And she doesn't learn anything from any of those previous marriages. And she seems very desperate to be a married woman, probably because of the time she grew up in and also the image of her parents, but also societal norms. You know, women need to be desperate to find a husband. But even in her older age, she is still she has this intense, desperate need to be married. And that desperation might explain why she just keeps jumping from one man to the next, to the next, to the next. And she doesn't really take the time to be introspective and say, well, what mistake did I make here? And what can I learn from it to apply it in my future? Like she just doesn't. I don't know. I mean, who am I to judge? But hey, she wrote the book, so I can. So, and then just to prove my point, so she's talking about, what is his name? I don't know his name, but I think he's a celebrity. Rick something. Let me see. What is his last name? Oh, I think this is like her 4th husband. Or 3rd, maybe. Okay. So anyway, she meets Rick in Las Vegas. It sounds like he's a rich guy. She says he's handsome, quite the character. And she's known him for years. And then right before she talks about Rick, she says someone, I can't remember who, told her that she needs to get away from the people that she's around. And so she says, okay, it sounded like she was taking that advice to heart, like she really needed to do something. But then right after she says that, this is what happens with Rick. Okay. Marcus and my driver, Arrow, had gotten themselves into trouble while we were in Vegas. They were playing blackjack in my room and ended up owing Rick a couple $100,000. Rick said that he would forgive the debt if I married him. And then, obviously, we know what happens. So, throughout the book, it's sad to read because you see how throughout her life she is constantly being used by men, but it almost seems like she welcomes it. It's a little bit sad to read. There's, like I said, there's child abuse. There's domestic abuse. There is a rape incident in this book. I mean, there's a lot of heavy stuff in here, but she talks about it with lightness. Like, I mean, that could be her way of dealing with trauma, to joke about it. So that's the way it comes across. She's very light about the traumatic events that she endured. And sometimes it comes off a bit too cavalier. And yeah, the tone in this book is very light and fluffy, but what she's talking about is serious. So I just found that interesting for someone her age to just be so kind of jokey about serious events that took place in her life. But yeah, I'm glad the things that she went through didn't make her bitter, but I don't know if she really handled those events with care and attention that they need. But yeah, this was an interesting read. She did have she does have a Netflix documentary that's out now, which kind of goes over and highlights the main topics that are in this book. So you could watch that and get the same information. Maybe some things are more detailed than others in the documentary, but it's largely about what takes place in here. There's not a lot in here. There's not a lot, and then there is a lot. So it's like that. I do wish she would have spent more time on the marriages, but I guess, she does come across like someone who doesn't want to badmouth anyone, and that may be why this book is very thin, which, I can understand. I mean, Tommy Lee is the father of her two children, her two sons, so I guess she doesn't want to, create some tension within the family. So you can respect that, but let me see. And then she did talk about the limited series, Pam and Tommy, and she talks about it as it sounds like it's a second violation for her because she's having to go through it all over again, that experience, which it is a second violation, but unfortunately she is a public figure. That is what you are up against. So yeah, and I did review the Pam and Tommy series, so if you want to check that out, I will leave that link for you. I liked the Pam and Tom series. I thought they did a great job with that, and the actors were good. I liked how every episode had a different point of view. So I liked it, but I do understand, it's creating more trauma for the victims of that event. So there's that. But anyway, yeah, if you want to read this, great. I would pick it up, but just know there are some heavy events that happen in this story, and it gets pretty sad at certain points, but she kind of moves on quickly. So, yeah, she doesn't linger on those moments for long. But if you are a fan of hers, you might enjoy this. So have at it. But I wouldn't say it's something that you need to run to the stores for. It's not that, in my opinion, because like I said, there is a documentary, so you can just watch that. But yeah, those are my thoughts on that. And yeah, go ahead, like, comment, subscribe if you choose. And I am curious to know, what was your first impression of Pamela Anderson, or what was the first thing you saw that she was in? Was it a movie? I'm thinking Baywatch was the first time I experienced Pam Anderson, but for some it might be Playboy. I remember VIP, and I liked it, even though it probably, it's been years. But I remember when I was a kid, I did used to watch it. It would come on, I think, on the weekends. So I kind of liked it, but I couldn't really tell you what it was about right now. I don't remember. But to me, it just seemed like fun. Like, I don't remember taking it seriously. So I'm not sure what it was about. I think she was a detective or something. Anyway, I liked it, but I never thought of Pam as some great actress. Although in the documentary, they did show a little bit of her rehearsal for the Broadway play Chicago. And I wish I went to see that, because it looks like she did a damn good job. But that was in New York. I wasn't around New York at that time when Chicago was out, so I missed it. I would love to see her do some more plays, because it sounds like one thing I will say about the book, you definitely can see her sense of humor. And I think that is what has made the traumatic events more tolerable for her, because she does have a great sense of humor. But yeah, anyway, yeah, let me know what you think. And that's all I have to say about Love, Pamela. All right. I will catch you in the next one. Bye.